Hello, my name is Susanna, if you don't know me. Today I just wanted to make something encouraging, and it is how I started my Bible study and why I think you should start one if you're thinking about it. So it was like in July that I was like, oh, it would be so cool if like I could make a group of just have a group of women in my home and we could read the Bible together. That would be so amazing. And I was like, Lord, is that like an idea from you? Like, I don't want to just do this and I'm not like qualified or whatever. And anyway, I just felt like I was like, well, I mean, how do we know anything is from God? We see if it lines up with his word. And yeah, that's basically the main thing, is like, that's how you know something is from God, is like if it lines up with his word and doesn't go against him, and has wisdom with it. So I really felt like this was something that would encourage the women in my community. It would be a great way to meet people. And honestly, that wasn't even something that I thought about when I first made it, but yeah. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a group where we read like a large chunk of scripture in one night. So what we would do is read an epistle every night. That's what my idea was. And an epistle is just like a letter in the New Testament. And most of them were written by Paul. So like they go from Romans to Revelation. And I was like, we'll read like the short epistles, like one whole letter every single time that we meet. So like if we're gonna read James, we're not taking 5 weeks to read James because there's 5 chapters. We're reading the whole book of James when we meet. And we did it weekly, so that was really cool. And it was just like, I wasn't expecting it to affect me as much as it did, but it has been just so good. And so I'm just so grateful for that group, and that the Lord like put that desire in my heart to make a group like that. And anyway, I was like, okay, what are ways that I study the Bible? That's how I'm gonna structure this. And basically the way that I study the Bible is just, I usually, like, before I start a book of the Bible, I watch the Bible Project video. And so I was like, okay, we're gonna watch the Bible Project video that's associated with the book. So I've been talking about James. I'll just keep talking about James. So you could look up the Bible Project video for James, and it gives like an overview, like a summary of what you're gonna be reading about. And that's really helpful for when you go to read it. Another thing that I do is I read a chapter at a time, and I usually look at like 3 things. What is God's character in this? Is there anything that I can apply to my life? And then are there any questions that I have about this? That's like usually the way that those are the questions that I ask, because they apply to any scripture. Like, it's like if I'm in the Old Testament, maybe that second question, like, how does this apply to my life? Like, for example, in Leviticus, that might not be something that does apply to my life, but the question of like, what is God's character in this, that always is applicable in the Bible. So those are just 3 questions that I like to ask. And so for my Bible study, I would come up with questions that I had after reading the chapter. And even if I didn't know the answer, I still would like ask the ladies this to see what their thoughts were. And I would be so transparent and be like, I don't know like what the answer is to this, if you guys have more insight, because there were older women in the group. And I was like, if you guys have insight or things that you know about this piece of scripture, let me know. And so I usually had like 2 or 3, sorry, it's loud. I usually had like 2 or 3 discussion questions per chapter of the book that we were reading. And then I would have people pair up and do the discussion, or sometimes sometimes the question would be for the whole group. And both were like really good, but I feel like the partners was always just like, that helps people that are quiet to speak up. And so like having people in partners, because they talk with each other, and it's easier for like introverted or shy people to talk in groups like that. Another thing that I would do is make sure that we would pray before we would read scripture, because that's something that I do in my personal time, is I try to pray before I read scripture. And then we would always at the end like have a time where it was like, with your partner, pray for each other, like what's going on in your life. So it's like at the beginning it would be to pray for understanding of what we're about to read, and then at the end it would be like pray with your partner over things that are going on in their personal life, and things that they want to work on, and things that they're thankful to God for, and things like that. So but that's kind of like how I would structure my Bible study. And it truly just like I feel like the way that it was just like formulated around questions and like partnerships, and just we straight up would just read the word. Like I would play a podcast that literally just read the Bible to us, and we would just talk about the Bible, and we were literally just learning straight from the word. And so I believe that I saw the Lord move so much. Like I cried so many nights, so many people like cried. Like it's just like, and I mean, that's not like a mark if God's moving, but you could tell that like God was stirring in people's hearts, because crying doesn't always mean that, anyway, but I know that like the Lord was working in other ways, because I would see people start to change after one Bible study after another. Someone would become a little more open or whatever. And so it was just such an encouraging thing, and I want to start another one. I just moved. So yeah, but the really cool thing is that group is still going on. Somebody else is leading it now, like since I moved away. And I just think that it's so cool how the Lord was like, well, I like this, so someone else is gonna lead it now. And I think that's just so cool. And I don't know, but anyway, I just wanted to share about that. So thanks for listening, and I hope this helps you in either your group Bible study or your own personal time of reading with the Lord. So thanks for watching.